fact that women live longer than men affects your financial needs. As women, we need to be prepared to fund a longer retirement and ultimately finding maybe some sort of care options for us down the road. Women will now earn, control, and inherit more money and assets than they ever have before. You have the power to create your life full of possibilities by taking charge of your finances now and overcoming some of the unique challenges that women face with their finances. The decisions you make now, good and bad, shape your future. Statistically speaking, women live on average 5 years longer than men. So it's likely that at some point in your life, you will be the sole decision maker and in control of your finances, if you aren't already. I'm Amber Knips, Wealth Advisor at Sweet Financial Partners of Jackson and Fairmont, Minnesota, and I specialize in working with high net worth women as they work through life's biggest transitions. We believe that everyone has the right to create their dream life and realize that their dreams are possible. And we want to focus on that when we're looking forward with our clients and planning for the future. I met someone a few years ago. She wasn't a client yet, but her husband had passed away a few months before. And he really had a DIY approach to investing, which worked great for them. He loved the markets. He loved looking at everything, worked great until he died. And he had several employer plans, 401ks, things kind of everywhere, but he had a really great system. But unfortunately, when he was gone, that system didn't work anymore. He had a big mess that he left for her. And something that worked so well was completely turned upside down. And she had a lot of big decisions to make and did not have a lot of confidence to make those decisions. Oftentimes I hear women say, well, things work well now. He takes care of things. I'll get involved later. There's plenty of time. Or maybe just busy right now. I don't have the time to look at it. And I don't know about you, especially with having kids, time goes by fast. And even the best intentions sometimes can get pushed off until it's too late. Because the reality is unexpected things happen, life happens. And I think it's so important to plan for all of the what ifs so you don't find yourself in that case where you're like, now what? And not feeling comfortable moving forward. What I want you to remember is you don't have to love watching the markets or be a market guru to make good financial decisions. The most important piece to help you make confident decisions and create that life of possibility is assembling that team of experts, the ones that you trust to help you make those good decisions. One of my favorite quotes is, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I think that rings so true, especially as women. We tend to do it all, think of it all, and be that person for everyone. But sometimes we need people to take care of us too, and that's okay. Women face some additional challenges when it comes to their finances, but if looked at correctly, challenges are just opportunities for transformation and growth. They're not setbacks. And that's what I help my clients through every day. So today, we'll go through some of those important challenges to overcome and think of as opportunities. So the first is finding a balance between career and caregiving, because oftentimes we find ourselves in the middle, that maybe we have to take time off of work to care for family members, or we have to maybe work a little bit less hours because we need to take care of family members. And maybe that hurts income a little bit. Being in that sandwich generation. So not having to give up one or the other, because oftentimes they're both important, but finding that balance so that we're not hurting our savings goals. And that's the biggest thing, is finding a way to make it all work together. And that looks a little bit different for everybody. And maybe it's giving a little bit in one spot and taking from the other, but not forever. And looking at it as a way of, you can continuously adjust. And that's what your team of experts help you decide. What makes the most sense of, maybe you're giving a little bit, but making sure you're not giving too much, so you're setting back your savings overall and your long-term success. The second one is longer lifespans. Like I mentioned earlier, the fact that women live longer than men affects your financial needs. As women, we need to be prepared to fund a longer retirement, and ultimately finding maybe some sort of care options for us down the road. What we often see is in a married couple, especially, one will take care of the other, but when the other's gone, there's not someone to maybe step in as easily. So finding some sort of a solution, whether it's long-term care insurance or building up another savings account, really working with your team of experts to say, what does that look like for you? Because ultimately, regardless of how things look long-term, you don't want to have to say no to things that are important to you because you live a little bit longer. It's using that as an opportunity to have more experiences and do more. And that can be a good thing too. And number 3, a lack of financial confidence. And oftentimes I see when we're nervous or when we just don't understand, maybe investing a little too conservatively. So since we're saving for a longer retirement, we need to take an appropriate level of risk in order to have our retirement savings grow for that long time period. So sometimes a savings account at the bank, it feels good because it's not going down, but technically that's a really safe way to lose money over time. So that might not be growing for you adequately, that maybe you need to take a little bit more risk. But having someone explain that and explain the pros and the cons and really work through and figure out what do you need in order to reach your goals. It's a little bit different for everyone else. Oftentimes people ask me, well, how much should my portfolio be growing? What's a good rate? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Because what you want to do in retirement is different than Sally or Sandy down the street. You want to figure out what your goals are, and we'll help you determine what do you need growth-wise to get there. So number 4, maybe a fallout from a divorce. That oftentimes after going through a big transition like that, women tend to suffer financially. It's hard to build back up that savings. It's hard to maybe have to purchase a house, or now you have rent. Figure out what that balance is, but that's not the end for you. You can make a comeback. It's doing it in the appropriate way and saving in the best ways. And kind of leading to what I chatted about before is making sure you're saving to reach your goals, saving the correct amounts as well as the correct growth levels and growth rates. And number 5, that's a big one, is taxes. It's one of those things that we're going to continuously talk about. You're going to hear me harp on all the time, but it's a big thing, especially when we're looking at where are tax rates going to potentially grow over time. I tend to be a little pessimistic on tax rates, but I think we're going to see some increases. So is there anything you should be doing now to take advantage of where we know tax rates are compared to later? And another big piece with this is the single versus married brackets. That's oftentimes something that comes up as a surprise to women after they've gotten divorced or lost a spouse, is those brackets tighten up quite a bit. So if you have the same income levels or close to the same income levels, you're going to pay a lot more tax. So thinking about that, even towards the end of our lives, and thinking about, well, where are we going to potentially be? Should there be doing anything differently? That's a big conversation to have every year, not just one year, because saving the least amount over time doesn't mean saving the least amount each year, and making sure you're looking at that from a long-term perspective. One of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself is being involved now in creating those relationships of your team of experts to help set you up for success. Think who, not how, to help you reach your goals, and ensure that you're on track. Like I mentioned before, we believe that everyone has the right to realize that their dreams are possible, and we want to help you get there. So what we've done is we created a great resource to think about what's next. And what that does is helps you gain clarity on what's the most important to you. You can access this toolkit completely free by going to mysweetfinancial.com.